to Tamara Alrifai. She's the spokeswoman for UNRWA and joins us from Amman. Good to have you with us. First of all, could you give us a report on the situation as far as you're aware of it in Gaza?
As far as I'm aware, and having just connected with my colleagues in Gaza now, the airstrikes continue with heavy bombing, which is causing a very large movement of people. Many people have sought shelter in UNRWA schools. My colleague in Gaza just told me that up to 137,000 displaced people are now seeking refuge in 83 UNRWA schools. It is worth reminding that UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestine Refugees, runs a network of 278 schools in Gaza. Many of them we can turn into shelters overnight if needed. And this is what's happening now. People are looking for that blue flag. For them, the blue of the UN is a sign of safety, and they're taking their families there.
Does the blue UN flag protect them from Israeli airstrikes, or have in the past has it been known that these sites are still bombed by airstrikes?
International humanitarian law is very, very clear. All UN installations and buildings and schools are protected by the warring parties. No one is allowed to attack them. Now, unfortunately, 14 of our buildings have already sustained damage since yesterday, including one of our schools. Now, luckily, no one died of this. So while in most conflicts, our installations and the blue protects us and protects people who come to our buildings, we do have incidents, and to anticipate that or to avoid it, rather, we share the GPS of our locations with all the parties in order to alert them to our presence in different places.
Now, the Israeli government has said that the defense minister said there's going to be a complete siege on Gaza. There is already a siege on Gaza. But what supplies exist already in the country when it comes to food, when it comes to fuel, when it comes to water, the basic aspects of survival?
For UNRWA, again, to be able to respond to an emergency, we pre-position food and some other basic survival items like blankets or mattresses ahead of a crisis, so that if people do come to our buildings because they want to feel protected there, we're able to cater to them. So, for instance, this morning, my colleagues told me that they distributed food in the shelters. But what's most important is to make sure that the buildings that are originally schools can truly be turned into something where people can spend a night, meaning desalination plants to get desalinated water, or mobile toilets and mobile shower, because if people need to spend a night in these schools, they need their basic necessities. Now, for UNRWA, we're able to receive up to 150,000 displaced people into our current structure. We're going to assess how long we can receive them for, given how much food and other items we currently have. It is worth, though, reminding that the Gaza Strip has been under blockade for 16 years, which has limited access to Gaza to fuel and food, and has limited the movement of people in Gaza and the growth of its economy. So we're already talking about layers of poverty and desperation even before the current conflict.
And when you hear of EU countries freezing aid to Palestinians, how does that make you feel, first of all, and what impact is that actually going to have on the ground?
The first thing we say is that UNRWA is a UN agency. It's the UN agency mandated by the UN General Assembly, that is almost all countries in the world, to provide basic services, schools, healthcare, social protection to a population of Palestine refugees across the region. So in the occupied Palestinian territory, but also in Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. We are a UN agency. And when any of our major donors speak about reassessing their aid to Palestinians, we reiterate that we are a UN agency.
OK. And Tamara, just lastly, we're talking about a major health crisis as well in Gaza, with people being struck by airstrikes and collapsed buildings, hospitals overrun. How can UNRWA help, if at all, in that scenario?
UNRWA has been through several conflicts in Gaza. Sadly, the Gaza Strip has witnessed major conflicts since 2008. In all these conflicts, the UNRWA primary health centers remain open to the extent that we can, with staff and with supplies, but the major war injuries and war injured have to go to the local hospitals. UNRWA is not in a position to respond to war injuries.
OK. Tamara Alrifai, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us on Al Jazeera, giving us an idea of what the situation currently is inside Gaza.